We are what your species calls vampires. None of our roommates have ever been harmed.
That's a significant clarification.
The listing had said spacious room, shared common areas, quiet household, non-smoking, utilities included. It had not said anything about the roommates being alien vampires. Cale Marsh had read the listing 3 times. He was the kind of person who read listings 3 times, and he was fairly certain he would have noticed that detail. He had been looking for housing in New Callum City for 6 weeks. 6 weeks of listings that turned out to be half the size advertised, or in buildings where the elevator had not worked since a year ago last March, or with roommates who had seemed fine in the initial message and progressively less fine as the actual meeting approached. He had a temporary assignment at the Xenobiology Research Institute starting in 10 days and a sublease that ended in 4, and the specific low-grade panic of someone watching a logistical gap approach with no solution in sight. So when the listing for a 3-bedroom in the Vale Tower residential complex appeared, genuinely spacious, legitimately priced, futuristic city views, immediate availability, he had messaged within 4 minutes and arranged a viewing for the next morning without asking nearly enough questions. The apartment was extraordinary. That was the first thing. The kind of apartment that made you understand immediately why someone might overlook certain details about the people living in it. White walls that somehow felt warm rather than cold. Floor-to-ceiling windows that gave the entire living space a view of the silver towers and glass domes of New Callum City that looked like something from the better class of dream. Built-in shelves with actual books and trailing plants. Kitchen that gleamed. A sofa the color of fresh cream that looked like it had been designed specifically to make sitting down feel like a decision you'd made correctly. He was standing in the living room taking all of this in when she appeared. She came from the hallway that led to the other bedrooms, silent in a way that wasn't quite normal, the particular silence of someone whose footsteps simply didn't happen the way footsteps usually did. She was tall and extraordinarily pale, and her black hair fell past her waist like something poured rather than grown, and her eyes when they found him across the room were red. Not bloodshot. Not an unusual dark brown that read warm in certain light. Red. Luminous. Faintly glowing in the way of something that produced its own light rather than reflecting anyone else's. "You are the applicant," she said. Her voice was low and precise, carrying the specific cadence of someone who had learned English as a studied language rather than a native one. Perfectly correct, slightly formal, missing the lazy contractions of casual speech. "Cale Marsh," he said. "Yes." A pause during which he processed what he was looking at. "You're Sivari. From the listing." "I am." She moved to the kitchen with that same footstep-free silence and took 2 cups from a cabinet. "Tea?" "Sure," he said, because it seemed rude to say no when someone was already reaching for the kettle, regardless of the eyes. She made tea with the calm efficiency of someone who had done it many thousands of times, which he would later learn was literally true. She set a cup on the kitchen counter for him and held her own and looked at him with those red eyes and waited. "The listing," he said carefully, "didn't mention species." "No," she agreed. "Most listings don't. I just want to make sure I understand the—" He searched for a word. "Situation." "We are Velhari," she said. "What your species terms in the older literature vampires. The terminology is imprecise but not entirely inaccurate." She tilted her head slightly. "We do not require human blood specifically. Any living biological energy source is sufficient. We have arrangements. Oz. My sister Vayli and I have lived here for 3 years. We have had 7 human roommates in that time. None of them have been harmed." "That's a significant clarification," he said. "We find it tends to be the relevant one." He picked up the tea. It was genuinely excellent tea. He didn't know why this surprised him. "Why human roommates?" he asked. "Specifically." Something moved through her expression, not quite amusement but adjacent to it. The Velhari embassy housing is crowded and political, she said. Human residential buildings allow more independence. And humans, she paused in a way that suggested she was selecting her words, are interesting to live with. You have very many opinions about very many things. It keeps the apartment lively. The second vampire appeared at that moment from the hallway, shorter than Savari by a few inches, same black hair, same pale skin, same red eyes, wearing what appeared to be an oversized human university sweatshirt and carrying a datapad. She stopped in the living room doorway and looked at Kale with an expression of direct, evaluating curiosity. "Is this the new one?" she asked Savari. "This is Kale Marsh," Savari said. "He is considering." "He has good energy," Veli said, which was either a compliment or a menu assessment, and Kale decided to take it as the former. She dropped onto the cream sofa with the unself-conscious ease of someone entirely at home and looked up at him. "The room is larger than it looks in the photos. The heating works. We don't make noise after midnight and we ask the same in return. Savari stress cleans when she's anxious, so the kitchen is always spotless. I borrow things and return them." "Oz. Usually." "What do you borrow?" Kale asked. "Books mostly. Sometimes the good blanket." "There is one good blanket." "There is now one good blanket," Veli confirmed. "The others were insufficient." Kale looked around the apartment. At the view through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the silver towers of New Callum City catching the afternoon light, the domed buildings in the middle distance, the sky beyond them clear and enormous. At the bookshelves and the plants and the extraordinary cream sofa. At Savari standing in the kitchen with her red eyes and her excellent tea. At Veli on the sofa in her university sweatshirt looking at him with the frank interest of someone who had already decided the answer was yes and was waiting for him to catch up. He had 4 days left on his sublease and 10 days until his assignment started and 6 weeks of increasingly exhausting searching behind him. "The room," he said. "Can I see it?" Savari set down her tea. "Of course."